What if today were different? Take a deep breath before continuing. Something made this message reach you. It wasn't chance, nor a system error. It was an invisible movement. Only 1% are ready to recognize this sign. The rest will pass by, blinded by the noise of the world. Back, you are here because the time for searching is over. If you're listening to this, it's because you were called to understand what others only read. Many repeat the words, but few possess the key. Close your eyes for a moment. Relax your shoulders. Feel the tension leave your neck. Breathe. Imagine before you a door of warm light, an entrance to knowledge that has been reserved for this exact moment in your life. There's a hidden code in a verse you've recited 1,000 times, a partial mystery that reveals why, despite your faith, you sometimes feel like heaven is silent. The key to solving this enigma and activating true provision in your daily life will be revealed at the end of this meeting. It's the secret that separates those who ask from those who have already received. You have waited longer than others can imagine. You have walked through deserts of uncertainty, wondering when that answer your soul so desperately longs for will arrive. But listen closely. What seemed like waiting was divine preparation. What seemed like silence was the work you couldn't see, gestating in the invisible to manifest in the tangible. Let's talk about that passage the world reads with its eyes, but not with its spirit. Look at the birds of the air. They do not sow or reap or store away in barns, and yet your heavenly Father feeds them. Millions have read these words. They have seen them printed on posters. They have memorized them in childhood, yet most live in constant anxiety, as if their provision depended solely on the sweat of their brow or the whims of fate. Why doesn't the bird fear tomorrow? It's not because it's indifferent, but because it's aligned with the order of creation. The human error has been to believe that provision is a future event, something that will happen. The mystical truth is that provision already is. It exists on a frequency of absolute trust that the logical mind cannot process. The logical mind wants to see the barn full to be at ease. The spirit, on the other hand, knows that food arrives the moment its beak opens. Understand this. Anxiety is the noise that blocks the divine signal. When you worry, you are declaring that the universe is orphaned, that you are alone in the battle. But today, this message finds you to remind you that there is a covenant signed with your name, a covenant of abundance that knows nothing of external crises, inflation, or human need. Divine provision is not just receiving what you need, it is the wisdom to see what you already have with eyes of gratitude. Gratitude is the magnet for miracles. Many read about daily bread and think of scarcity, of barely having enough. But in the language of the High Command, daily bread means that the source is inexhaustible and that you don't need to store up yesterday or worry about tomorrow, because the source flows in the eternal now. Stop. Feel the weight of these words. How many times have you tried to force doors that wouldn't open? How many sleepless nights have you spent trying to solve equations that only God can decipher? The verse we are analyzing today invites you to a strategic surrender. It's not a surrender of weakness, but of power. It's letting go of illusory control to allow the invisible movement to take the reins. Observe nature. The tree isn't stressed about how its leaves will grow next spring. It simply remains. It is anchored. You have lost your anchor by trying to navigate the storms of the mind. This mystical aspirational awakening calls you to reclaim your ascent, to understand that provision is a state of consciousness. If you vibrate with lack, you will attract lack. If you vibrate with the certainty that you are sustained by a higher intelligence, physical reality will have no choice but to yield to that truth. The world has taught you to fight, to compete, to fear. Today's message teaches you to receive. There is a vast difference between seeking and attracting. Those who seek assume they lack something Those who attract recognize they are already one with the source. The verse about the birds is not a suggestion of passivity. It is a command of identity. You are a child, not a slave. You are an heir, not a beggar. Don't imagine for a moment that every decision you make from now on stems from peace, not fear. How would your way of speaking change? How would your posture change? How would you treat others if you knew, with unwavering certainty, that your needs have already been met before you even name them? That is the freedom this verse offers, and one that almost no one manages to grasp. In the next few minutes, we'll delve deeper into the spiritual mechanics of this mystery. We'll discover why focusing on the how is the biggest obstacle to the what. But first, I need you to prepare yourself internally. What follows requires you to let go of the person who entered this video and allowed. The being who understands abundance as their birthright to be born. You have walked paths where the shadows seemed more real than the light. I know. You have waited longer than others can imagine. You have watched others move forward while you felt your feet were rooted to the ground of uncertainty. You have looked to the sky for a sign, an answer, some relief from the burden you silently carry. But today, in this stillness, the truth reveals itself to you with a clarity you cannot ignore. Listen with your soul. What seemed like waiting was divine training. It wasn't punishment. It wasn't being forgotten. It was the necessary process for your inner vessel to become large and strong, enough to contain the abundance that is about to overflow. A tree that must bear heavy fruit needs roots that have pierced the rock in the darkness. You have been piercing the rock. You have been strengthening your spirit in the silence of the early mornings and in the solitude of your doubts. What seemed like silence was the work you didn't see. While you counted the days, the universe was counting your lessons. While you were looking for a way out, the High Command was building a platform. Let's return to the wisdom of that verse. The world has... When we're told not to worry about tomorrow, we're not being asked to be irresponsible. We're being shown the law of spiritual physics. Worry is a prayer for what you don't want. Every time fear overwhelms you, you're using your immense creative power to visualize lack. But the bird, the little master of the skies, doesn't visualize lack. The bird dwells in presence. God's provision isn't a package that arrives in the mail from a distant land. It's a frequency you tune into when you stop fighting against the current. Millions read the verse and continue trying to manufacture their own miracles with hands bloodied by exhausting human effort. Real provision, the kind that is solid and lasting, comes from an unseen covenant. It's the recognition that you are not the provider of your life. You are the steward of the source's infinite wealth. This is the difference between effort and flow. Human effort says, I have to achieve it. Divine flow says, it already belongs to me. Now I will allow it to manifest. To understand provision, you must understand identity. A king's son doesn't wonder if there will be food at the banquet. He simply sits down at the table. If you feel like you're lacking something today, it's because somewhere along the way, you forgot who your father is. You forgot that your lineage is of light and that scarcity is an optical illusion created by collective fear. This is a call to completely reprogram your personal narrative. You are no longer the person who survives. You are the being who co-creates. The decisions you make today should not stem from the need to plug a hole, but from the authority of one who knows that the reservoir of grace is always full. When you act from peace, money, opportunities, and the right connections are drawn to you like metal to a magnet. It is Alo. It is the invisible movement we mentioned at the beginning. We are the sacred moment in this transmission. You are not here to simply consume information. You are here to seal a commitment to your new reality. Knowledge without action is just noise. Wisdom with declaration is manifest power. At this moment, we are going to perform an act of spiritual authority. It is not to convince God, but to convince every cell in your body and the atmosphere around you that you have shifted your frequency. I want you to stop all distractions. Feel the energy in your hands. Feel the firmness in your heart. I invite you to seal this message right now. Write a powerful phrase in the comments that will serve as your signature in this divine pact. Write with conviction. Today I received my answer. By writing these words, you're not just making another comment on a digital platform, you're sending a signal to the quantum field of provision. You're saying, I've stopped looking outside for what has already been deposited within. Be commenting. Today I received my answer. You're accepting that the solution to the problem that kept you awake at night has already been sent. You're acknowledging that the verse about the birds is now your operative reality. See how other members of this community, people God has specifically chosen to be here today, are also sealing their faith. You are not alone in this awakening. You are surrounded by a collective vibration of abundance that accelerates results. Feel the weight of that community. Feel the assurance that, as you write, the unseen workings of the unseen have begun in your favor. The daily provision we speak of is not limited to material things. It is a provision of ideas that are worth their weight in gold. It is a provision of health that allows you to enjoy your accomplishments. It is a provision of relationships that uplift you instead of draining you. It is the peace of mind that allows you to sleep like a baby, knowing that the Watcher of Israel neither sleeps nor slumbers. Many have read the verse. You, today, have begun to understand it. You have grasped that provision is not something God does. It is something God is. And since you are one with Him, provision is your natural state. Anything less than abundance is an anomaly that is canceled in your life today. But be careful. The world will try to drag you back to the old narrative as soon as this video ends. Problems will scream, debts will rumble, and the news will try to sow terror. That's why it's vital that you stay connected to this frequency. This message isn't meant to be heard just once. It's medicine for a soul that has been poisoned by a culture of scarcity. In the final part of our meeting, I will reveal the key element I mentioned at the beginning, the secret to ensuring that this provision is not just a fleeting event, but a source that never runs dry, even in times of extreme external hardship. I will guide you through a final affirmation prayer that will activate the invisible movement in your finances. Your home and your life's purpose remain in this atmosphere. Do not break the cycle. The mystery is about to be completed. We have reached the threshold. You have remained here because your spirit recognized the truth before your mind. At the beginning of this encounter, I spoke to you of a key piece, a partial mystery that separates those who recite empty words from those who walk on the waters of provision. The verse says, "Look at the birds. Your Father feeds them." But here's what almost no one understands. The secret is not in the food, but in the way we see. Most people look at their bills, look at their debts, look at what's missing from their life's pantry. The bird doesn't look at the ground searching for the seed. The bird flies high and trusts in its design. The key is the synchronization of the vessel. Heaven cannot pour abundance into a cup that is closed by fear. The secret to making provision not an event, but a permanent state, is to stop asking for what you need and start giving thanks for what is already on its way to you. It's acting as if the banquet is already served, even when the table seems empty. That is the invisible movement. It is the certainty that God's mechanism is never late. It only arrives at the exact moment your faith becomes unwavering. Now, get ready. We're going to activate that mechanism in your physical reality. It's not a simple request. It's a decree of authority over your own life. Close your eyes one last time. Feel the golden light we spoke of at the beginning. Now flood your chest. Repeat after me, either aloud or in the sanctuary of your mind, with the conviction of one who claims a rightful inheritance. I decree today that my connection to the source is uninterrupted. I renounce the illusion of lack and embrace the truth of my divine design. Like the birds of the sky, I move with lightness, knowing that the sustainer of the universe walks before me. I decree that the doors that were closed by fear are now opened by the authority of my faith. I invoke the invisible movement over my finances, my home, and my projects. What is rightfully mine by conscience comes to me effortlessly, gracefully, and perfectly. God, I accept that my waiting is over. I accept that my training has borne fruit. Today, I cease to be a seeker and become a magnet for blessings. It has been said. It has been signed. It has begun. Amen. Feel the change in the atmosphere. Something has shifted on planes beyond the reach of the human eye. From this moment forward, remain alert. Provision will manifest in unexpected ways. A sudden idea, a forgotten call, a peace beyond understanding amidst the storm. Don't question it. Don't analyze it with the limited logic of the world. Simply receive it. You have taken a step that 99% of people will never dare to take. You have chosen wisdom over anxiety. You have chosen the divine covenant over exhausting human effort. This journey doesn't end here. You've been chosen by destiny to be part of something greater. If you feel this message was a private encounter with your purpose, I invite you to stay connected to this community, a community God has selected for those who are ready to see the invisible and do the impossible. Subscribe now and turn on notifications, not as a technical formality, but as a way to stay connected to this frequency of light. Don't let the noise of the outside world drown out the voice of your intuition again. Here, we'll remind you every day who you truly are and the full extent of your heritage. Share this message with just one person you know who is going through a desert of doubt. Be the messenger of their provision. Thank you for allowing me to be the channel for this awakening. Always remember, you are not alone. You are not forgotten. You are being held by hands that created the stars. Go in peace, act with power, and live in abundance. What is yours has already found you.